Hi, you are watching Revenge of Reddit. My wife had a lover for 5 years, and when he died, she left home. Now she's back, asking to save our marriage. I'm here because I feel the need to vent and share what happened to me. My wife, 39, and I, 40, had been together for 23 years. We met in high school, started dating when we were 17, and were married for 17 years. We have 3 daughters, aged 15, 13, and 11. Until recently, I thought we had a stable life and a solid relationship. But everything collapsed a few weeks ago. It all started one day when my wife came home from work looking upset and on the verge of tears. She didn't say much, only that she needed some time and space. The next morning, she woke up early, packed a small suitcase, and left. Our oldest daughter was home when she left, and according to her, my wife could barely speak because she was crying uncontrollably. I tried calling her, sending messages, but she didn't answer. Eventually, I called my in-laws, and they told me my wife was staying with them. They asked me to be understanding, to give her time to clear her mind. I also called her brother, but he didn't know anything either. One of her co-workers told me that she had shown up at the office but left around noon without saying a word. For days, I didn't know what to do. I stayed home with our daughters, trying to remain calm, but I couldn't answer their questions. All I could tell them was that their mom was with their grandparents, and that we had to be patient. The situation had me on the verge of panic. I didn't know what had happened, and nobody gave me clear answers. After a week, my wife came back. She looked calmer but completely defeated. That's when she dropped the bomb. She had been cheating on me for 4 years with a coworker. She said that, at first, she did it because she was bored and felt stuck in our relationship. According to her, she never planned for it to last that long, but things got out of hand. She had recently ended things with him and went to her parents' house because she didn't know how to face me or what to do. I didn't know how to react at that moment. It felt like my soul had been ripped out. She told me she still loved me, that she wanted us to try to save our marriage for the sake of our daughters and everything we had built together. But after 4 years of lies, how could I even think about forgiving her? I asked her to leave the house so I could process everything. She went back to her parents' home, and since then, she's been begging me to take her back. She sends me messages every day, promising to go to therapy, saying she'll do whatever it takes to earn back my trust. Even my in-laws have called, asking me to forgive her, saying nobody is perfect and to think about the girls. But I can't. Every time I see her or read her messages, all I can think about are those 4 years. 4 years in which she looked me in the eyes and lied. 4 years in which she destroyed everything we thought we had. My daughters still don't know the truth. They only think we're having marital problems. For now, I'm just trying to keep everything as stable as possible for them. I want a divorce, but I don't even know where to start. I never thought I'd be in this situation. Part of me wants revenge, but I know it won't solve anything. Right now, I just want to move forward, for myself and for my daughters. Update 1. Hi again. Sorry if this update doesn't make much sense. I barely slept last night, and my mind is all over the place. I've read all your comments on my previous post, and I truly appreciate every word and suggestion. I wasn't sure how to connect this to my previous story, but here's what has happened since then. The only person I could think of who might tell me what was going on was my wife's sister. We've always had a cordial relationship, and she's always been my wife's confidant. I called her, and after denying it several times, she finally told me what she knew. My wife had been having an affair for at least 2 years. It could have been longer, but she wasn't sure. The most shocking thing was that her lover had just died this week. Apparently, he had a heart attack on Tuesday night. I don't know much about this man, other than that he worked with her. My sister-in-law and my mother-in-law had both suspected something between them. That also means my wife didn't end the affair. Her lover's death did. Now that he's gone, she wants to fix things. For now, my wife still hasn't contacted me or our daughters. I have no idea how to handle this. I'm trying to keep everything away from the girls because I don't want them to suffer more than necessary. But honestly, I feel like I'm carrying a weight that's crushing me. I deeply appreciate everyone's comments and advice on my previous post. I'm still trying to process everything, but I don't know what to do. I'm emotionally exhausted, and this news just made everything worse. Please keep us in your thoughts. That's all I can share for now. Update 2. I've discovered more details about my wife's affair. At first, I believed her relationship with the other man had lasted 2 years, but now it seems it went on much longer. From what I've been able to find out, they had been together since around the time of our youngest daughter's 6th birthday. That means the man she cheated with was part of our lives for at least 5 years. I found this out while going through old messages with the help of my oldest daughter, who has been incredibly strong through all of this. Honestly, I never wanted to involve her, but she insisted on helping me get to the bottom of everything. The lover died a few days ago of a heart attack, and it seems that's what triggered my wife's confession. I still can't understand how she managed to keep this secret for so long and pretend everything between us was fine. It breaks my heart to think that every laugh, every hug, everything we shared was a lie to her. Or at least that's how it feels now. I've been talking to lawyers to explore my legal options. I've met with 2 different attorneys, and although the process seems long and complicated, I know divorce is inevitable. My daughters remain my biggest concern. I want to make sure they have stability and support as we go through all this. Emotionally, I'm at rock bottom. During the day, I try to stay busy with work and take care of my daughters. But when the house goes quiet and everyone's asleep, my mind fills with rage and sadness. I find myself punching my pillow or screaming until my arms ache, then staring at the ceiling for hours, unable to sleep. It's a cycle that seems endless. I've tried to follow some of the advice people have given me here, avoiding alcohol, staying active. But motivation is hard to find. I used to be an active person, someone who went to the gym regularly. But now I feel like I can barely get out of bed in the morning. Thinking about all our years together, the milestones we shared, the laughter, all of it now feels like a cruel reminder of what she destroyed. I feel trapped between the past and the present, unable to imagine a future without her, yet knowing I can't stay where I am. My daughters have been amazing. Even in their pain, they're doing their best to take care of me when it should be the other way around. Seeing them like this gives me the strength to keep going, even if it's one small step at a time. They know their mom and I are getting divorced, but I haven't told them the truth about the affair. I don't know if I ever will. I just want to protect them from more pain. Finally, I want to ask something. To those of you who have been through this, how did you find peace amid the chaos? How did you face those lonely nights when everything is dark and all you have are your thoughts for company? I'm trying to prioritize sleep and mental health, but it feels like every step forward costs me everything. Update 3. It's been a little over 10 days since I discovered the truth. I'm still processing everything, and every day seems to bring a new challenge. Thank you to everyone who has followed my story and offered support. Writing here has been a kind of therapy for me, and although I never imagined needing a place like this, here I am. Recently, my in-laws came to visit the girls. It was a short visit, barely 15 minutes with them, before they asked to talk privately. Since all of this began, my wife has been living at their house, and it seems they want that to change. During the conversation, they told me that my wife wants to come back home, but is afraid of facing the consequences of her actions. They also admitted to feeling humiliated and ashamed of what she did. The conversation was polite, but it was clear they were trying to persuade me to forgive her and keep the family together. I told them I'm still unsure of my intentions. The truth is, I'm planning to get divorced, but I'm afraid that if I mention it now, I'll never get the full answers I need. I want my wife to sit in front of me, look me in the eyes, and tell me everything, from beginning to end, without lies or excuses. I'm not sure if that will give me any closure, but I feel like I need it to move on. My daughters are also a major concern. They know their mother and I are going through something serious, but they don't know all the details. If my wife comes back home, I want her to apologize to them first and be willing to answer their questions. They're victims in this too, and they deserve an honest explanation. I talked to my lawyer about this situation, and he was clear. Legally, I can't stop my wife from returning home since it's still her residence as well. However, I set one condition. If she wants to come back, she must first meet with me face to face and tell me everything without more lies. I know I can't force her to comply, but I'm trying to buy some time. So far, I've managed to establish a fairly stable routine with my daughters. We've adapted, and the idea of my wife returning fills me with anxiety. I don't know if my condition is foolish, but I hope it makes her think twice before coming back. Either way, divorce is inevitable. Our state has a 90-day waiting period before it can be finalized, and I'm using this time to plan and prioritize my emotional and mental well-being. My wife, meanwhile, seems to be deeply affected by what happened. I've seen messages she sent to my mother-in-law and others asking for forgiveness, saying she thinks of me every day and regrets everything she's done. But after years of lies and betrayal, nothing she says holds any value. For now, I'm focusing on what's best for my daughters and me. I know she'll probably return home sooner rather than later, and while that doesn't scare me, I'm worried about how to handle it. All I want is to make decisions that allow me to move forward and build a better future for all of us. Update 4. This will be a long update, but I need to let it all out and put everything on the table. It's been a terrible weekend, and although things have moved forward, not in the way I expected. Yesterday, my wife came back home. When she walked through the door, there were no hugs, no kisses, nothing resembling what our dynamic used to be. There was only an incredibly uncomfortable tension between us. She tried to hug me, but I rejected her. It was as if she wanted to act like nothing had happened. I took a deep breath, tried to stay calm, and once again asked her to tell me everything, as I had requested before allowing her to come back. But once again, she said she wasn't ready. That was devastating. I made it clear to her that I knew about the affair, that it had lasted more than 4 years, and that she had even planned to leave me for the other man before he died. I reminded her of how she had ignored her family and me, and that the only thing I'd asked for to allow her back home was honesty. At first, she seemed surprised by how much I knew, but then she simply lowered her head and stayed silent. She didn't react the way I expected. I thought there would be tears, shouting, or at least some sort of excuse. But there was nothing. She just stood there, staring at the floor, motionless, as if she didn't know what to do. That silence was worse than anything else. It was painful, even more painful than the day I found out the truth. To make things worse, our daughters heard everything. I've been doing everything possible to protect them from this situation, but yesterday, I failed them. Our eldest daughter, who had already been carrying so much, snapped. She came down the stairs, screaming at her mother, crying, accusing her of ruining everything. Then she ran to her room and slammed the door. Our youngest tried to approach her mother, but the other two didn't want to have anything to do with her. That night, I heard my wife sobbing in the bedroom. I didn't try to comfort her. Honestly, I don't know if I ever could. Today, we tried to continue with our routine, as we have these past few weeks, but the tension is palpable. My daughters and I are trying to stay strong, but it's clear this situation is unsustainable. I'm considering asking my wife to stay with her sister until the divorce is finalized. I know I can't legally force her to leave, but I feel like we all need space to heal. What hurts the most is realizing that, after all these years, maybe I was never valued the way I thought I was. I believed her honesty and remorse would be a step toward some kind of closure, but her silence has only made everything worse. Every day, I become more convinced that our marriage never meant the same thing to both of us. Right now, all I want is to get out of this situation. I want to finalize the divorce, get through the awkward conversations, and avoid the arguments I know are coming. My daughters are my priority, and I'll do everything in my power to protect them. But honestly, I don't know if I can endure 3 more months like this. Update 5. Since my wife returned home, I've been in a terrible emotional state. I try to maintain a facade of normalcy for my daughters, but I can't deny that this situation is consuming me. I've done everything possible to stay polite, calm, and avoid direct confrontation. But tonight, everything fell apart. For context, my wife and I have been living under the same roof for a week. She spends weekends at her sister's house, which is an hour away, and returns Sunday night. This routine has become a kind of escape. She keeps her distance, while I try to move on with my daughters, as if everything were fine. Until now, our interactions have been minimal. I've followed the advice of many of you and made an effort to maintain self-control. The few conversations we've had were brief, disinterested, and polite. But tonight, things changed. When I got home from work, my wife was waiting for me in the kitchen. That was unusual, since she normally leaves for her sister's right after work on Fridays. I tried to ignore her and continue my routine, but she gently took my hand and asked if I was going to keep treating her this way, just because she wasn't ready to talk about her affair. It was the first time she mentioned her infidelity directly since she came back. I tried hard to stay calm. I wanted to walk away, bite my tongue, and avoid a confrontation. But I couldn't. Our daughters weren't home at that moment, and everything I'd been holding in for weeks came pouring out. I unleashed all the anger, pain, and sadness I'd been bottling up. I don't remember exactly everything I said, but it was like I'd been waiting for this moment just to let out all the torment inside me. I told her about the daily pain I live with, how betrayed I feel, and how her infidelity destroyed our family. At some point, I raised my voice and finally broke down. I felt so vulnerable and furious with myself for letting this happen. What surprised me was her reaction. For the first time, my wife also broke down. She cried in a way I'd never seen before, and between sobs kept whispering, "I'm so sorry." I don't know if she was sincere or not, but seeing her like that brought mixed emotions. Part of me felt some relief seeing her finally show empathy, but another part felt even worse, knowing that this moment wouldn't change anything. Eventually, I couldn't stand it anymore and left the kitchen. I begged her to leave me alone, and after about 30 minutes, she packed a few things and went to her sister's house. Shortly after, my daughters came home and noticed something had happened. I did my best to hide the situation, but I'm not sure if I succeeded. The youngest seems to be adapting better to all this, but my eldest is still full of anger toward her mother, and I don't want to make that worse. Last night, after weeks of tension and half-confrontations, my wife finally decided to confess everything. She came to me after our daughters had gone to bed, something she'd been avoiding all week, and begged me to talk privately. At first, I ignored her. I didn't want to repeat past mistakes or lose my composure in front of the girls, so I agreed. We went to the garage and sat in the car to talk. The conversation lasted over 3 hours. She started nervously, but once she began, she didn't stop. She told me every detail of her affair, how she met her lover, how it evolved, everything. It was an emotional roller coaster for me. I tried to stay calm, but there were moments when I couldn't help but cry out of anger and sadness. Here's the summary of what she said. About 5 years ago, before the pandemic, her sister introduced her to her lover. Let's call him Abel. According to her, there was no romantic intention at first, but Abel had a higher position in the company where she worked and was influential. When she decided to change jobs, Abel helped her get the new position. She claims nothing inappropriate happened at that time, but everything changed once she started working with him. Abel began flirting with her through messages and eventually sending photos. At first, she said the messages were innocent, but before she realized it, the relationship became personal. Right before the pandemic, it turned physical. During lockdown, she stopped working directly with Abel, and according to her, she tried to end the relationship several times. However, as soon as restrictions were lifted, he contacted her again. By then, the relationship had evolved to the point where, even though she felt guilty, she kept going back to him. That's what prolonged the affair for more than 4 years. She confessed that during that time, she invented an endless list of lies to justify her absences: business trips, traffic delays, outings with friends, or visiting her parents. All excuses to be with Abel. She even showed me notes she'd written, listing all the lies she'd told. Seeing it on paper was like a punch to the gut. It was humiliating to realize how many times I'd believed her without questioning anything. According to my wife, Abel promised her a life of luxury, travel, and emotional connection, something she claimed she had lost with me. She said she fell in love with him, but at the same time, she never stopped loving me. She said our family life had become monotonous, and she got swept away by the excitement of something new. But when the relationship with Abel began to deteriorate, especially as he started making promises he didn't keep, she began questioning everything. She said she thought about confessing many times but didn't have the courage until Abel died. His death forced her to face the reality of what she'd done. I don't know how to process all of this. Part of me feels relieved to finally have all the missing pieces, but another part is completely shattered by the extent of the lies and betrayal. She says she's sorry, that she wants to save our marriage, that she'll do whatever it takes to bring our family back together. But honestly, I don't know if I can forgive her, or if I even want to try. After our talk, she went back to her sister's. I stayed alone in the garage, trying to make sense of it all. But it's impossible. I feel betrayed, humiliated, and utterly broken. Seeing her cry and apologize doesn't change what she did. It doesn't undo the damage she caused to our family and to me. After telling me every detail, from how it started to how it developed and why it continued, my wife told me how much she loved me and that she always would. She also swore she was willing to do whatever it takes to save our marriage. However, after everything I'd just heard, her words sounded empty, like lines from a rehearsed script. Having spent more than half my life with this woman, I could tell that while she seemed sincere in her remorse, something still didn't add up. Maybe I'm wrong, but at that moment, I couldn't trust anything she said. Despite my efforts to stay calm, all the emotions I'd been repressing overwhelmed me. I said things I knew would hurt her. I mocked her lover, pointing out that he had been with multiple women and that she was the only one foolish enough to believe him. That clearly upset her, but I couldn't stop myself. Then I asked the question that had haunted me since this all began. If Abel were still alive, and you had to choose between him and me, who would you choose? She hesitated. It was a long, uncomfortable silence before she finally whispered, "That's not fair." But I pressed her. I needed an answer. Finally, she said, "Of course I would choose you." I couldn't hold back and replied, "You're lying. And that's exactly why we're getting divorced." After that, She started crying again. I just sat there, exhausted, watching her fall apart. I told her it was time to accept reality. We're getting divorced. We owe it to our daughters to be good parents and handle things amicably. I told her I hoped she'd at least be decent enough to make this process fair and respectful after all the damage she's caused. Of course, I didn't sleep much that night. I stayed up thinking about everything that had happened, everything she'd told me, and what it meant for our future. Hearing that her infidelity wasn't because of emotional distance or lack of love, but simply because she was bored, that was devastating. I don't even know if that makes it better or worse. Today, I feel like I've aged years in just a few weeks. Every day feels like a month, and every night is harder than the last. Even though I now have clarity about what happened, and I know divorce is inevitable, it still feels like this will never truly end. I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who has read and commented on my updates. Your words have been a tremendous support during this dark time. I know the road ahead will be difficult, but for the sake of my daughters and my own sanity, I'm determined to move forward. For now, I'll try to rest and focus on what truly matters: healing and rebuilding my life.